Commander Jake Sullivan stared at the message on his screen. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he barely noticed. The orders were simple, but they made no sense. He was supposed to take his team to the asteroid belt and check out some old ship that nobody remembered building. The ship was called the USS Defiance. According to the files, it was built in 2387 as part of something called Project Guardian. Then the project got canceled, and everyone forgot about it. Now, 38 years later, a mining crew had found it floating near the asteroid belt. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. He had been commanding deep space missions for 15 years, but he had never heard of Project Guardian. The files were mostly blank, with big black marks where information should have been. Someone had tried very hard to hide what this ship was supposed to do. Commander Sullivan? Lisa Martinez knocked on his door. She was the best engineer in the fleet, and Jake was glad to have her on his team. I got the mission briefing. Are we really going to look at some old prototype? Looks that way, Jake said. He turned his screen so she could see the pictures. The ship looked strange. It was bigger than most human ships, with thick armor plating and odd-shaped weapon mounts. What do you think? Lisa studied the images. It doesn't look like anything we build now. The armor is way too heavy, and those weapon systems look experimental. Why would someone build a ship like this and then just abandon it? That was exactly what Jake wanted to know. He stood up and stretched. Get the team ready. We leave in 6 hours. Bring Amy Chun for piloting and Nick Robinson for weapons. I want Tom Bradley for communications, too. The whole gang, Lisa smiled. They had worked together on many missions, and they trusted each other completely. Should I bring heavy salvage equipment? Bring everything, Jake said. We don't know what we're going to find out there. 6 hours later, their ship approached the coordinates where the mining crew had found the Defiance. Jake sat in the captain's chair, watching the main screen. Amy was at the pilot controls, her hands steady on the flight stick. She was the best pilot he had ever worked with. There it is, Tom said from the communications station. Wow, it's big. The USS Defiance hung in space like a sleeping giant. It was dark and silent, but it looked completely undamaged. This ship was nearly twice the size of their current vessel, with armor plating that looked thick enough to stop anything. No power signatures, Nick reported from the weapons station. But the hull looks perfect. It's like someone just parked it here. Yesterday, Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Ships didn't stay in perfect condition for 40 years without maintenance. Something was very wrong here. Take us in close, he ordered. Lisa, start your scans. I want to know everything about that ship before we board it. Lisa's fingers danced across her control panel. Hull integrity is perfect. I'm reading some kind of advanced armor system. The metal composition is unlike anything in our current ships. There's something else, too. What? I'm getting faint energy readings from deep inside the ship. It's like something is still running in there, but on minimal power. Jake made his decision. We're going aboard. Amy, dock us with their main airlock. Everyone else, get suited up. We don't know what the atmosphere is like over there. As they prepared to board the mysterious ship, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something important. The timing was too perfect. Just when humanity needed help the most, this forgotten ship had appeared. 3 days ago, Earth had received a message from something called the Valian Empire. The aliens had given humanity 30 days to surrender all colonies and submit to their rule. If humans refused, the Empire would destroy every human world. Earth's fleet was strong, but not strong enough to fight an entire alien empire. Admiral Ben Crawford had been looking for any advantage, any weapon that could help humanity survive. Maybe this forgotten ship was the answer to their prayers. Jake sealed his helmet, and checked his suit's systems. Let's go see what secrets the Defiance is hiding. The airlock cycled, and they stepped into the unknown. The inside of the USS Defiance was nothing like Jake expected. The corridors were wide and well lit, even though the ship had been floating in space for decades. The air was clean and breathable. Everything looked new, as if the ship had been built yesterday. "This is impossible," Lisa whispered, checking her readings. "The ship is maintaining full life support. The power systems are running perfectly. How is this possible after 40 years? They moved through the ship carefully, their footsteps echoing. In the empty halls, the design was strange but familiar. It was clearly a human ship, but built with technology that seemed far more advanced than anything they had seen before. "Look at these walls," Amy said, running her hand along the smooth metal surface. "This isn't regular steel. It feels different, almost alive." Nick was studying the weapon systems they passed. "These guns are huge, but I don't recognize the design. They're not plasma cannons or railguns. What are they?" "Let's find the bridge," Jake said. "Maybe we can get some answers there." The bridge was impressive. The command center was larger than most ships, with advanced displays and control systems. That hummed quietly. But what caught their attention was the voice that greeted them. "Welcome aboard the USS Defiance. I am LEX, the ship's artificial intelligence. I have been waiting for you." The team froze. AI systems this advanced didn't exist in 2387. Even now, most ship computers were simple programs that could barely hold a conversation. "You're the ship's AI?" Jake asked, looking around for cameras or speakers. "That is correct, Commander Sullivan. I have been maintaining this vessel and awaiting the day when humanity would need it. That day appears to have arrived. How do you know my name?" "I have access to current military communications. I know about the Valian ultimatum. I know that Earth's conventional forces cannot defeat the Empire's fleet. This ship was designed specifically for this purpose." Lisa stepped forward. "What? Do you mean designed for this purpose? This ship is 40 years old. How could it be designed to fight aliens we just met?" Allied EX's voice seemed to smile. "Please take seats at the main console. I will explain everything." The team sat down, and the main screen came to life. It showed images of the ship's construction, blueprints, and technical specifications that made Lisa's eyes widen. This ship was created by Dr. Helen Brooks and her team between 2385 and 2387. Dr. Brooks believed that humanity would eventually encounter hostile alien civilizations. She designed the Defiance to counter advanced alien technology. How did she know what alien technology would look like? Nick asked. Dr. Brooks had access to wreckage from 3 different alien vessels that had crashed on Earth between 2381 and 2384. The government kept these crashes secret, but Dr. Brooks was part of the research team that studied the alien technology. Jake felt his mouth go dry. There were alien crashes before the Valian contact? Yes, the aliens were scouts, probably from the Valian Empire. Dr. Brooks reverse-engineered their technology and built this ship to counter it. The adaptive armor you see can withstand energy weapons that would destroy normal ships. The quantum computers can predict enemy movements faster than any human crew. What about the weapons? Nick asked, leaning forward. The primary weapon system is called the disruptor array. It sends out energy pulses that can shut down electronic systems. Against ships that rely heavily on computers and energy weapons, it is devastatingly effective. Lisa was studying the technical readouts. This technology is incredible. Why was the project canceled? Alex was quiet for a moment. Politics. The government leaders in 2387 believed that building such weapons would be seen as aggressive by potential alien contacts. They wanted to appear peaceful and friendly. Dr. Brooks was ordered to stop her work and destroy the ship. But she didn't destroy it, Amy said. No, Dr. Brooks and her team knew the day would come when humanity would face extinction. They faked the ship's destruction and hid it here. They programmed me to maintain the vessel and wait for the right moment to reveal it. Jake stood up and walked to the main view screen. Outside, he could see the stars, cold and distant. Somewhere, out there, the Valian Empire was preparing to destroy his home. Can this ship really defeat the Empire? He asked. Not alone, Alex admitted, but it can level the playing field. The disruptor array has enough power to disable multiple enemy ships simultaneously. The adaptive armor can protect you from their energy weapons. Most importantly, the quantum computers can help you predict their tactics and find weaknesses in their formations. Lisa was still studying the technical specifications. There's something else. The power requirements for this ship are enormous. How does it generate so much energy? Dr. Brooks developed an experimental fusion reactor that uses a rare element, found only in the alien wreckage. The reactor is powerful, but it has limitations. Extended use of the primary weapons could cause instability. How much time do we have? Jake asked. The Valian deadline is in 27 days. I estimate it will take the Empire's main fleet 15 days to reach Earth once they begin their attack. That gives us 12 days to prepare. Jake looked at his team. They were all staring at him, waiting for his decision. The weight of humanity's survival suddenly felt very heavy on his shoulders. Can you teach us to operate this ship? He asked Alex. I can teach you everything you need to know. But Commander, you must understand the risks. This ship is prototype technology. Some systems have never been tested in actual combat. There is a chance that the ship could fail at a critical moment. What choice do we have? Jake said quietly. Our regular ships can't fight the Empire. This might be our only chance. Then we will begin training immediately, Alex said. I will teach you to awaken the beast that Dr. Brooks created. Let us hope it is enough to save your species. The next 5 days passed in a blur of training and testing. Alex was a patient teacher, but the ship's systems were unlike anything Jake's team had ever seen. The Defiance responded to thought as much as touch, with neural interfaces that connected directly to the crew's minds. This is incredible, Amy said, her hands moving across the pilot controls. The ship responded instantly to her commands, turning and accelerating with impossible grace. It's like the ship knows what I want to do before I do it. Lisa was deep in the engineering systems, learning how the adaptive armor worked. The hull can actually change its molecular structure, she explained to the others. When energy weapons hit it, the armor adapts to absorb that specific type of energy. It's like the ship learns from each attack. Nick was fascinated by the weapon systems. The disruptor array was powered by the ship's main reactor, but it could also channel energy from the adaptive armor. So when enemy ships shoot at us, we can use their own weapons to power our response? Exactly, Alex confirmed. Dr. Brooks designed every system to work together. The ship becomes stronger the more it is attacked. Tom had been studying the communication systems. Alex, I'm seeing references to something called the Final Protocol. What is that? There was a pause before Alex answered. That is a last resort option, Tom. I hope we never need to use it. On the 6th day, Admiral Crawford arrived with a small escort fleet. Jake met him in the Defiance's main briefing room, where Alex projected holographic displays of the ship's capabilities. This is remarkable, Crawford said, studying the technical readouts. But can it really work against an entire alien fleet? We're about to find out, Jake replied. Alex has located a Valian scout patrol near the outer colonies. We want to test the ship's systems against real enemy vessels. Crawford looked worried. That's extremely dangerous. If you're detected, the Empire will know we have advanced capabilities. They might accelerate their attack. Admiral, we need to know if this ship can actually do what Alex claims. Testing against drones and simulations isn't enough. We need real combat data. After much discussion, Crawford agreed to the mission, but you maintain complete radio silence. If things go bad, you run. We can't afford to lose this ship. 2 days later, the Defiance approached the coordinates where Alex had detected Valian activity. The ship's advanced sensors picked up 3 enemy vessels patrolling the edge of human space. They were smaller than the main battleships, but still larger than anything in Earth's fleet. They're scanning the area, Tom reported. Their sensors are more advanced than ours. I don't think our normal stealth systems would work against them. Activate the adaptive camouflage, Jake ordered. The ship seemed to shimmer and fade. On the view screen, Jake could see the Valian ships continuing their patrol, apparently unaware of the Defiance's presence. It's working, Amy whispered. They can't see us. But ALEX's voice carried a warning. Commander, one of the ships is changing course. I believe they have detected gravitational anomalies from our presence. The lead Valian ship suddenly turned directly toward them, its weapons charging. Jake had seconds to make a decision. All hands battle stations. Amy, evasive maneuvers. Nick, prepare the weapons, but don't fire unless I give the order. The Defiance twisted away from the incoming attack, but the Valian ship was fast. Energy beams lanced out, striking the ship's hull. Jake felt the impact, but the adaptive armor held. Armor is adapting, Lisa reported. The enemy weapons are less effective with each hit. They're calling for help, Tom said. The other 2 ships are moving to surround us. Jake watched as the 3 Valian vessels formed an attack formation. Their weapons were powerful, but Alex had been right about the adaptive armor. Each energy beam that hit the ship made the armor stronger against that type of attack. Nick, target the lead ship with the disruptor array. Minimum power setting. Firing now. A pulse of energy shot from the Defiance toward the Valian vessel. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The enemy ship's lights went out, its weapons stopped firing, and it began to drift helplessly. Direct hit, Nick reported. Their electronics are completely dead. The other 2 Valian ships hesitated, clearly confused by what had happened to their companion. Jake saw his opportunity. Target both remaining ships. Full power this time. The disruptor array charged up, drawing massive amounts of energy from the ship's reactor. When it fired, the pulse was so powerful that it overloaded the sensors on Jake's own ship for several seconds. When the displays cleared, all 3 Valian vessels were drifting dead in space. Their hulls were intact, but every electronic system had been destroyed. Incredible, Crawford's voice came over the comm. He had been monitoring from a safe distance. The enemy ships are completely disabled, but their crews are still alive. The disruptor array doesn't destroy ships, Alex explained. It disables them. Dr. Brooks believed that unnecessary killing was wrong, even in war. Jake felt a mixture of relief and worry. The test had proven that the Defiance could defeat Valian technology, but it had also revealed problems. The ship's energy consumption was enormous, and the quantum computers were showing signs of strain from processing the complex battle data. How long before we can use the disruptor array again? He asked Lisa. At least 6 hours, she replied, studying. The power readings. The reactor needs time to recharge, and the weapon systems need to cool down. That's not good enough, Jake said. In a real battle, we might face dozens of ships. We need to be able to fire more frequently. I may have a solution, Alex said. Dr. Brooks designed emergency protocols that can boost the ship's power output. However, using them carries significant risks. What kind of risks? The reactor could become unstable. The ship might only be able to sustain maximum power for a limited time before suffering catastrophic damage. Jake looked at his crew. They had proven that the Defiance could fight the Valian Empire, but they had also learned that the ship had serious limitations. The upcoming battle would be a race against time, with humanity's survival hanging in the balance. Set course for Earth, he ordered. We need to prepare for the real fight. As the Defiance turned toward home, Jake wondered if one experimental ship would be enough to save his species. The Valian Empire had hundreds of vessels, and they would not be caught by surprise again. But humanity had one advantage the aliens didn't expect: the determination to fight against impossible odds. Dr. Brooks had given them the tools. Now it was up to Jake and his crew to use them. The intelligence data they had gathered from the disabled Valian ships painted a terrifying picture. Tom had spent 3 days decoding their communication systems, and what he found made everyone's blood run cold. The main Valian fleet has over 200 ships, Tom reported to Admiral Crawford and the senior staff. 12 of them are dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying entire cities. Their weapons can cut through our strongest armor like paper. Jake studied the holographic display showing the enemy fleet's composition. Each Valian ship was larger and more heavily armed than Earth's best warships. The dreadnoughts were massive, bristling with plasma cannons and protected by energy shields that could deflect most human weapons. "How long do we have?" Crawford asked. "According to their communications, the fleet will reach Earth's outer defenses in 9 days," Tom replied. "They're moving faster than we expected." Lisa had been analyzing the technical data from the captured ships. Their technology is at least 200 years ahead of ours. Their plasma weapons can vaporize our hull material instantly. Their shields can absorb energy equivalent to our entire fleet's firepower. "What about their weaknesses?" Jake asked. "Every technology has flaws." Alex's voice filled the briefing room. "I have analyzed the Valian systems extensively. They have one critical weakness. They rely entirely on advanced computer systems. Their ships cannot function without their central processors. The disruptor array exploits this weakness perfectly." "But there are so many of them," Amy said quietly. "Even if we can disable multiple ships with each shot, we can't fight the entire fleet alone." Crawford stood up and walked to the main display. "We've been analyzing our options. Earth's fleet will engage the Valians in a direct battle to draw their attention. While they're focused on our conventional forces, the Defiance will attempt to reach their command ships and disable them. That's suicide," Hick said bluntly. "We'll have to fly through their entire fleet to reach the command ship." "It's the only chance we have," Crawford replied. "Without their command structure, the Valian fleet will be disorganized. Our ships might have a chance against confused enemies." Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. The survival of humanity depended on his crew and their experimental ship. If they failed, Earth would be destroyed, and humans would become slaves to the Valian Empire. "There's something else," Tom said, his voice troubled. "I intercepted some of their personal communications. The Valians don't see us as worthy opponents. They think this will be easy." "What do you mean?" Crawford asked. "They're calling this operation pest control. They've conquered 43 other species, and none of them put up significant resistance. They expect us to surrender after they destroy a few cities." The room fell silent. Jake could see the anger in his crew's faces. The Valians saw humans as insects to be stepped on, not as intelligent beings worthy of respect. "Let me show you something," Alex said. The hologram changed to show records of other conquered worlds. This is what happens to species that surrender. To the Empire, the images were horrifying. Entire populations enslaved, their worlds stripped of resources, their cultures destroyed. The lucky ones died quickly. The rest spent generations as workers in Valian mines and factories. "They don't take prisoners," Lisa whispered. "They take slaves." Jake stood up, his decision made. "Then we fight. We fight with everything we have. And we make them pay for every inch of space." Over the next few days, the crew worked frantically to prepare the Defiance for battle. Lisa discovered additional systems that Dr. Brooks had hidden throughout the ship, including experimental shield, generators, and emergency power systems. "The power core is still showing instability," she reported. "If we push the reactor too hard, it could overload. I estimate we have enough power for one major engagement before the systems start failing." "How major?" Jake asked. "If we use the disruptor array at full power, we might be able to disable 50 to 60 ships before the reactor becomes critical. After that, we'll be flying on backup power." Nick had been practicing with the weapon systems. "I've found a way to focus the disruptor array's energy. Instead of hitting multiple targets with medium power, I can hit fewer targets with devastating effect. The command ships have better shielding, so we'll need maximum power to disable them." Amy had been studying the tactical data. The Valian fleet moves in a defensive formation. The command ships stay in the center, protected by layers of escort vessels. We'll have to fight our way through at least 50 ships to reach our target. "Can we do it?" Crawford asked. Jake looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were determined. They knew the odds, but they were willing to try anyway. "Admiral, humanity has one advantage the Valians don't understand," Jake said. "When our backs are against the wall, we don't give up. We fight harder. And if you fail, then we'll make sure they remember us. Every alien species in the galaxy will know that humans don't go quietly into slavery." Tom had established secret communications with resistance groups in the outer colonies. "If we can disable the command ships, the colonists are ready to attack Valian supply lines. They can't fight the main fleet, but they can make the occupation costly." The final piece of preparation was personal. Each crew member recorded messages for their families, knowing they might not survive the coming battle. Jake sat alone in his quarters, staring at a picture of his sister and her children. "Alex," he said quietly, "do you think Dr. Brooks knew it would come to this?" "I believe she hoped it would not be necessary," the AI replied, "but she prepared for this possibility. She built this ship because she loved humanity and wanted it to survive." "Are we going to win?" Alex was quiet for a long moment. "Commander, I have run millions of simulations. In 63% of them, humanity survives. In 37%, the human species is enslaved or extinct. But in all the simulations where humanity wins, it is because brave people like you are willing to sacrifice everything for their species." Jake nodded and sealed his message to his family. Tomorrow, the Valian Empire would learn that humans were not easy prey. They would discover that sometimes the smallest species could bite back with deadly force. The Defiance was ready for war. The Valian Empire's deadline had arrived. Across human space, families huddled in their homes, watching the news broadcasts with growing fear. The alien fleet had been detected at the edge of the solar system, a massive armada that blotted out. The stars. Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching Earth's fleet prepare for battle. 200 human ships faced off against the Empire's 400 vessels. It was the largest space battle in human history, and probably the last. One if they failed. "All human ships are in position," Tom reported. "Admiral Crawford is requesting final confirmation of the plan." The plan was simple and desperate. Earth's conventional fleet would engage the Valiant forces in direct combat, drawing their attention and forcing them into a tight formation. While the enemy was focused on the main battle, the Defiance would use its stealth systems to penetrate deep into the Valiant fleet and disable their command ships. "Confirm the plan," Jake ordered. "And Tom, send a message to all human ships. Tell them that whatever happens today, they're making their species proud." Lisa had been working non-stop to prepare the ship's systems. "The reactor is as stable as I can make it. The disruptor array is charged and ready. All defensive systems are online. How long can we maintain full power?" Jake asked. 30 minutes, maybe 40 if we're lucky. After that, the reactor will start overloading, and we'll have to shut down or risk explosion." Nick was at the weapons station, his hands steady on the controls. "I've programmed targeting solutions for the primary command ships. If I can get clean shots, I can disable their entire command structure with 3 pulses." Amy was running final checks on the flight systems. "The quantum computers are predicting Valiant movement patterns based on our earlier encounter. I think I can get us through their formation, but it's going to be close." A LEX's voice carried across the bridge. "All crew members, please take your positions. The battle is about to begin." Through the main view screen, Jake could see the first exchange of fire between the fleets. Human missiles and energy beams lanced out toward the Valiant ships. Wow. Return fire lit up space with deadly plasma bursts. The battle was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Human casualties are mounting," Tom reported grimly. "We're losing ships faster than expected." Jake watched as a human cruiser exploded under concentrated Valiant fire. Good people were dying while he waited for the right moment to strike. Every second of delay cost more lives. "Alex, what's the optimal time to begin our approach?" he asked. Valiant fleet is tightening their formation to focus fire on the human ships. In approximately 3 minutes, their command vessels will be in the center of their formation, surrounded by their strongest escorts. "That's when we go," Jake decided. "Amy, prepare for stealth approach. Lisa, I want maximum power to all systems. Nick, be ready to fire the moment we're in range." The next few minutes felt like hours. Jake watched his fellow humans fighting and dying against impossible odds, buying time for his mission with their lives. Admiral Crawford's flagship took heavy damage, but continued fighting, its guns blazing defiance at the alien invaders. "Now," Jake ordered. "All systems full power. Amy, take us in." The Defiance shimmered and vanished from normal sensors as its advanced stealth systems activated. Amy's hands danced across the controls, guiding the ship through the chaos of battle toward the heart of the Valiant fleet. "Enemy sensors are having trouble tracking us," Tom reported. "But some of their ships are starting to notice gravitational distortions." "How close can you get us?" Jake asked Amy. "I can get us within firing range of their command ship, but we'll be surrounded by enemy vessels. Once we fire, every ship in their fleet will know exactly where we are. That's all we need. One good shot at their flagship." The Defiance slipped through the battle like a ghost, past burning human ships and massive Valiant dreadnoughts. The alien vessels were focused on the main battle, their weapons pouring devastating fire into the human fleet. "There," Nick said, pointing at the tactical display. "The command ship. It's huge." The Valiant flagship was 3 times larger than any human vessel, bristling with weapons and protected by energy shields. Smaller command ships flanked it, coordinating the battle against Earth's forces. "Range to target?" Jake asked. 2 minutes. "At current speed," Amy replied. "But Commander, we have a problem. There are too many escort ships. I can't get us close enough for a clean shot." Jake studied the tactical display. The command ships were protected by dozens of smaller vessels, each one capable of destroying the Defiance if they were detected. Alex, can we modify the disruptor? A ray to punch through their formation? Yes, but it would require channeling all available power through the weapon system. The reactor would immediately become critical, and we would have no power for escape. So it's a one-way trip, Lisa said quietly. Jake looked at his crew. They were all looking back at him, waiting for his decision. Outside, human ships continued to die while alien forces pressed their attack. There's no choice, he said. If we don't stop their command structure now, Earth falls. Everyone understand what that means? Amy nodded. It means we don't come home. It means we save everyone. Else, Nick added, his voice steady. Then let's do it, Jake said. Amy, take us straight at their flagship. Maximum speed. Nick, charge the disruptor array to overload. Lisa, give me everything the reactor has. Commander, Tone said, his voice tight with emotion. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor is mine, Jake replied. All of you are the best crew I've ever worked with. Let's show these aliens what humans are made of. The Defiance dropped its stealth systems and accelerated directly toward the enemy command ship. Immediately, alarms began sounding throughout the Valian fleet as sensors detected the approaching human vessel. Multiple enemy ships changing course to intercept, Amy reported. They're firing everything they have at us. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled the space around the Defiance, but the adaptive armor held against the barrage. Each hit made the ship stronger, the alien weapons feeding power to the very systems designed to destroy them. Disruptor array. At maximum charge, Nick announced. Reactor critical in 60 seconds. 30 seconds to optimal firing range, Amy called out. Through the view screen, Jake could see the massive Valian command ship growing larger. Its weapons were turning toward them, charging up for a devastating counterattack. This is it, he said quietly. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone we couldn't save. The Defiance raced toward its destiny, carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire species into the heart of an alien fleet. The space around the Defiance erupted in deadly light as dozens of Valian ships opened fire. Plasma bolts and energy beams converged on the human vessel, but the adaptive armor held firm. Each blast made the hull stronger, the alien technology working against itself. Hull integrity at 90% and rising, Lisa reported. The armor is absorbing their energy and converting it to power our systems. Amy pushed the ship harder, weaving between the enemy vessels with impossible skill. The quantum computers fed her information faster than any human could process, predicting enemy movements and showing her paths through the deadly crossfire. 20 seconds to firing range, she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. Around them, Nick had his hands on the weapon controls, watching the targeting system track the massive Valian command ship. Disruptor array charged to maximum. One shot, and we can disable their entire command structure. Reactor critical in 15 seconds, Lisa warned. The power core is becoming unstable. We need to fire now or lose everything. Jake watched the tactical display as enemy ships moved to block their approach. The Valians had realized what the humans were trying to do, and they were throwing everything they had to stop the Defiance. Fire! Jake ordered. The disruptor array unleashed its full power, sending a massive pulse of energy toward the Valian fleet. The beam was so bright, it overloaded the ship's view screen for several seconds. When the display cleared, Jake saw something incredible. The Valian command ship was dark and drifting. Around it, dozens of other vessels had lost power, their lights flickering out one by one. The energy pulse had cascaded through their fleet, disabling ship after ship in a chain reaction. Direct hit, Nick reported. I count 47 enemy vessels completely disabled, including all 3 command ships. But their victory came at a terrible cost. The reactor overload had begun, and systems throughout the ship were failing. Lights flickered, artificial gravity fluctuated, and warning alarms blared from every station. "Reactor containment failing," Lisa shouted over the noise. "We have maybe 5 minutes before complete meltdown." Jake looked at the tactical display. The disabled Valian ships were already beginning to restore emergency power. Their backup systems would bring them back online within minutes, and then the Defiance would be surrounded by angry enemies with nothing left to fight them. "Amy, can we reach the escape pods?" he asked. "Negative," she replied, fighting to keep the ship stable as more systems failed. "The docking bay is sealed off by radiation from the reactor. We're trapped here." Tom was still monitoring communications from both fleets. "Commander, the human fleet is pressing their advantage. With the Valian command structure down, our ships are winning individual battles. But it won't last long once their ships come back online." "How long before the Valians restore their command systems?" Jake asked Alex. "Approximately 8 minutes," the AI replied. "However, I have been analyzing the cascade effect from our weapon. The damage is more extensive than expected." "What do you mean?" "The disruptor array didn't just disable their electronics. It corrupted their computer systems at the fundamental level. They will need to completely rebuild their command software before they can coordinate their fleet again." Nick looked up from his station. "How long would that take? For a species as advanced as the Valians?" "Probably several hours." "But Commander, our reactor will explode in less than 4 minutes. We won't survive to see their recovery." Jake felt a strange calm settle over him. They had accomplished their mission. Earth's fleet had a fighting chance now, even if it came at the cost of their lives. But something Alex had said sparked an idea. "Lisa, what would happen if we channeled the reactor explosion through the disruptor array?" She stared at him. "That's impossible. The weapon system is already overloaded. Adding more energy would just make a bigger explosion." "But what if we could control the explosion? Focus it?" Lisa's eyes widened as she understood what he was suggesting. "You want to turn our reactor meltdown into a weapon?" "The Valian ships are still vulnerable. Their systems are damaged, but not destroyed. A controlled explosion channeled through the disruptor array could create an electromagnetic pulse that would permanently damage every ship within range. It would also vaporize us instantly," Amy pointed out. "We're already dead," Jake replied quietly. "The question is whether we can take more of them with us." LEX's voice carried a note of something that might have been admiration. "It is possible, Commander. Dr. Brooks designed the ship with multiple failsafe systems. If we reversed the containment protocols and channeled the explosion through the weapon array, the electromagnetic pulse would be devastating." "How devastating?" Nick asked. "Every Valian ship within 50,000 kilometers would suffer permanent system damage. Their hulls would survive, but their electronics would be destroyed beyond repair. They would be nothing more than metal shells drifting in space." Tom was checking the tactical display. "That would include at least 120 enemy vessels, including all the ships we've already disabled." Jake looked at his crew one final time. They were scared, but their faces showed determination rather than despair. They knew what they had to do. "Lisa, can you set up the controlled overload?" "Give me 2 minutes," she said, her fingers flying over the engineering controls. "I'll need to reroute the reactor's output through the weapon systems and disable all the safety protocols. Amy, position us at the center of their formation. I want maximum effect from our final shot. Tom, send a message to Admiral Crawford. Tell him what we're planning and give him our tactical data. The human fleet needs to know where the disabled Valiant ships will be. Nick, help Lisa with the weapon modifications. We need to make sure this works." As his crew carried out their Final orders. Jake stood at the command station and watched the battle raging around them. Human ships were fighting with desperate courage against impossible odds, buying time with their lives for their species to survive. Modifications complete, Lisa reported. Reactor will reach critical mass in 60 seconds. The explosion will channel through the disruptor array and create an electromagnetic pulse with a radius of 70,000 kilometers. All human ships are clear of the blast zone, Tom confirmed. Admiral Crawford sends his thanks and says it's been an honor. 30 seconds to detonation, Lisa announced. Jake activated the ship's intercom for the last time. This is Commander Sullivan to all human forces. The USS Defiance is about to complete its final mission. Tell Earth that we kept our promise. Tell them that humanity never surrenders. 10 seconds, Lisa said quietly. Jake looked at his crew, these brave people who had chosen to die so their species could live. Thank you, he said simply. All of you. The reactor reached critical mass, and the Defiance disappeared in a flash of light that could be seen across the solar system. The explosion was visible from Earth itself, a new star that blazed briefly in the darkness of space before fading away. When the light disappeared, so had the USS Defiance and Commander Jake Sullivan's crew. But their sacrifice had not been in vain. Admiral Crawford watched from his flagship as the electromagnetic pulse spread outward from the explosion site. The wave of energy washed over the Valian fleet like an invisible tide, and one by one, the alien ships went dark. Their lights flickered out, their weapons stopped firing, and their engines fell silent. Tactical report, Crawford ordered, hardly daring to believe what he was seeing. Sir, 137 Valian vessels have lost all power. His communications officer reported. They're drifting helplessly. No energy signatures, no movement, no communications. What about the ships that were outside the blast radius? Approximately 70 Valian vessels remain operational, sir. But they're scattered and disorganized. Without their command ships, they don't seem to know what to do. Crawford looked at the tactical display showing the aftermath of the battle. The Valian Empire's mighty invasion fleet had been reduced to less than 1/3 of its original strength. More importantly, the ships that remained were confused and leaderless. All human ships, this is Admiral Crawford, he broadcast to the fleet. The Defiance has completed its mission. Press the attack while the enemy is disorganized. The human fleet, bloodied but not broken, turned on the remaining Valian ships with renewed fury. Without their coordinated tactics and overwhelming numbers, the alien vessels found themselves fighting individual battles against determined human crews who had nothing left to lose. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Human ships that had been retreating minutes earlier now pressed forward, their crews inspired by the sacrifice of Jake Sullivan and his team. The Valians, for the first time in their history, found themselves on the losing side of a space battle. Within 6 hours, the remaining operational Valian ships had either been destroyed or had fled the solar system. The mighty invasion fleet that was supposed to crush humanity had been utterly defeated by one experimental ship and its crew of 5 heroes. But the victory had cost more than just the Defiance. Earth's fleet had lost 68 ships and over 15,000 crew members. Every family on every human world had lost someone in the battle. The price of freedom had been paid in blood. In the days that followed, human salvage crews began the massive task of securing the disabled Valian vessels. The alien technology was decades ahead of human capabilities, and studying it would advance human science by generations. But more importantly, the ships contained detailed information about the Valian Empire itself. What they discovered changed everything. The Empire had been built on the conquest of weaker species, but it had grown too large to control effectively. Dozens of conquered worlds were already in rebellion, held in check only by the fear of the Imperial fleet. With their main battle force destroyed, the Empire began to collapse almost immediately. News of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Species that had been enslaved for centuries rose up against their Valian overlords. The Empire that had seemed unstoppable suddenly found itself fighting wars on dozens of fronts, with no way to respond to all the threats. Within 6 months, the Valian Empire had ceased to exist. Their homeworld surrendered to a coalition of former slave species, and the galaxy entered a new age of freedom. Humanity, the species that had been dismissed as primitive insects, became respected as the civilization that had broken the chains of oppression. Dr. Helen Brooks became a legend, her foresight and determination celebrated across human space. The Defiance-class warships, built using her original designs and lessons learned from the battle, became the backbone of humanity's new fleet. Never again would Earth be defenseless against alien threats, but it was Jake Sullivan and his crew who were remembered most of all. Statues were built in their honor on every human world. Children learned their names in school. Their sacrifice became the symbol of human courage and determination in the face of impossible odds. Lisa Martinez, the engineer who had understood the ship's systems better than anyone. Amy Chun, the pilot who had guided them through the enemy fleet with impossible skill. Nick Robinson, a weapons officer who had fired the shots that saved humanity. Tom Bradley, the communications officer who had ensured their final message reached Earth. And Jake Sullivan, the commander who had made the hardest decision of all. Alex, the artificial intelligence that had waited 40 years for the right moment, had also been destroyed in the explosion. But before the end, the AI had transmitted all of Dr. Brooks' research data to Earth, ensuring that humanity would be ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. Earth's children grew up in a galaxy where humans were no longer alone, but they were no longer afraid. The lesson of the Defiance had been learned by every species in the galaxy. Humanity would fight for its freedom, no matter the cost. The Valian Empire had learned too late that some species cannot be conquered, only destroyed. And when faced with that choice, humans had chosen to destroy their enemies rather than accept slavery. In the end, it had not been humanity's technology or numbers that had saved them. It had been their willingness to sacrifice everything for the survival of their species. The Empire had counted on humans being reasonable, on choosing survival over resistance. They had been wrong. Humans were not reasonable when their families were threatened. They were not practical when their freedom was at stake. They were something the Valians had never encountered before, a species that would rather die fighting than live in chains. The overlooked prototype, Warship, had indeed ended the Empire's reign. But more than that, it had announced to the galaxy that humanity had arrived, and they would never be overlooked again. The stars belonged to everyone now, but they would always remember who had set them free.